Poor sleep alone doesn't kill you, but what you do in the first 30 seconds after waking up just might. There is one specific morning habit that most people over 60 perform without a second thought every single day. And research, real name, peer-reviewed research, suggests it increases the risk of a fatal cardiac event by up to 40%. Not smoking, not eating bacon, something you do before your feet even touch the floor. And the most dangerous part, your doctor has probably never mentioned it. Stay with me, because I'm going to show you the research behind it with the actual study names so you can look them up yourself, and then I'm going to give you the exact words to say at your next doctor visit. The kind of thing that turns everything looks fine into an answer you can actually trust. And yet, almost no one does it. Not correctly. Not consistently. My name is Dr. David Okafor. I have spent over 20 years in cardiovascular medicine, and I have spent just as long watching the same preventable morning sequence repeat itself in patients who felt completely fine the night before. Today, that changes. And before this video is over, you're going to have the exact tests and questions to bring to your next appointment. So looks fine actually means something. But before I name the habit, there is something happening inside your body right now, every single morning, that you need to understand first. Because without it, the danger makes no sense. But first, quick question. When your alarm goes off, how fast are you on your feet? Are you a 3 seconds and go person, or do you sit on the edge of the bed for a minute? Tell me in the comments. I read every single one, and the pattern I see in those answers tells me exactly how far this information has actually reached. All right. So picture this. It's 5:47 a.m., you're still asleep, and your body is already doing something you want to know about. While you sleep, your body runs in something close to low power mode. Heart rate drops. Blood pressure comes down. Sounds peaceful, right? Your nervous system goes quiet. It is the only genuine rest your heart gets in a full 24 hours. But here's what most people never hear. In the early morning hours, before your eyes open, before your alarm sounds, your body starts flooding the bloodstream with cortisol and adrenaline. Not a little. A surge. How much? Researchers call it the cortisol awakening response. Studies, including work by Pressner and colleagues, show it can spike 50% or more in the first half hour after you wake up. And those two hormones do three things to your heart almost at once. Heart rate jumps, blood pressure climbs, and at the same time, your blood vessels are clamping down. When you were 35, your cardiovascular system absorbed that hit without flinching. I mean, you probably jumped out of bed, hit the ground running, didn't think twice. And honestly, you didn't need to. After 60, the picture looks different. The arteries are stiffer. The response is slower. And a lot of people who feel perfectly healthy, there's plaque built up quietly inside those vessel walls. Plaque they don't know is there. When that morning hormonal wave slams into a vessel wall carrying vulnerable plaque, it can crack it open. A cracked plaque triggers clotting. A clot in a coronary artery, heart attack. A clot in a cerebral artery, stroke. That is not a worst case scenario. That is the mechanism. A landmark study, Mueller and colleagues, published in the New England Journal of Medicine, analyzed nearly 3,000 heart attack patients and found a clear peak between 6 and 10 in the morning. It was not random. It was biology. And what you do in the 25 seconds after your alarm goes off either helps your heart ride that wave or tips it over the edge. I'm going to show you the exact sequence, but I want you to hear what happened to a patient of mine first, because she did everything right and it still wasn't enough. I want to tell you about a patient I'll call Helen. Helen was 71. Retired nurse, which matters because she'd spent her whole career watching for warning signs in other people. She knew the numbers, she asked the right questions, took her blood pressure medication every morning without fail, walked her neighborhood 4 days a week, had her labs done every year like clockwork. Her last panel call looked clean. Her doctor told her she was doing great for her age. One Thursday morning, Helen woke up, reached over, silenced her alarm, and did what she had done every single morning for as long as she could remember. She sat up fast, swung her legs off the bed, and stood up. Took 3 or 4 steps toward the hallway. That was as far as she got. Her husband found her on the floor. When I reviewed Helen's case later, and honestly, this one stuck with me, everything about her cardiovascular profile said she was managing her health responsibly. The medications were right. Her diet was reasonable. Her fitness was above average for 71. But here's what got me. No one, not her doctor, not any specialist she'd ever seen, had ever asked her about those 25 seconds. The ones between the alarm and being vertical will come back to Helen. Because what she told me in the recovery room, the one thing no one had thought to mention, is the reason I'm making this video today. Here is the habit. The one specific thing that most people over 60 do every morning that silently loads the gun. They stand up immediately. That's it. Alarm goes off, vertical, in under 3 seconds. Sound familiar? Feels like nothing. It is completely ordinary. And for your heart at that precise moment in the morning, it is one of the most dangerous things you can do. Here's the science. When you're lying flat, blood is distributed fairly evenly through your body. The moment you stand, gravity pulls a big volume of blood downward into your legs, your abdomen. Your heart has to respond instantly to keep enough pressure going to the brain. In a younger person, that reflex is fast. The vessels tighten, heart rate adjusts, pressure holds. In adults over 60, that reflex slows down. The vessels don't respond as quickly. Blood pressure can drop 20 points, sometimes 30 within seconds of standing. There's a clinical name for it, orthostatic hypotension. The diagnostic threshold published in consensus guidelines by Freeman and colleagues is a 20-point systolic drop within 3 minutes of standing. A lot of people blow past that number every morning and call it just getting up too fast. Ever get that gray, dizzy, foggy feeling when you first stand up in the morning? A lot of people over 60 experience it and just wave it off. That's normal. It is not normal. It's a warning. Now, I know some of you are thinking, I've been getting up like this for 40 years and I'm still here. That's exactly what Helen thought too. The fact that your heart has compensated so far does not mean it always will. What changes after 60 is the margin. The margin gets thinner every year. And here's where it connects to that morning hormonal surge. When blood pressure drops suddenly after standing, the heart compensates hard, spiking its rate and output aggressively. In a heart already under cortisol stress, already working against stiff arteries and thicker blood, that compensatory spike can crack a plaque. It can trigger an arrhythmia. Standing up in under 3 seconds is the 25-second mistake. And it costs nothing to fix. But standing up fast isn't the only thing working against you at 6 a.m. There's something happening to your blood itself, and when I explain it, you're going to look at that glass of water on your nightstand completely differently. Here's something you probably already know but haven't connected to your heart. After 7 or 8 hours of sleep, you are dehydrated. Every single morning. You know what you haven't done in 8 hours? Had a single sip of water. You've been breathing steadily all night, which loses moisture continuously. By the time your alarm goes off, your blood is measurably thicker than it was when you fell asleep. Think of it this way. Imagine turning on a garden hose that hasn't been used since last summer. The first water that comes through is sluggish, maybe silty. The flow is rough. That's your blood at 6 in the morning. Thicker fluid means the heart works harder with every beat, and thicker blood doesn't just increase the workload, it clots more easily. Research confirms that platelet activity peaks in the early morning hours and the body's natural clot dissolving system is at its weakest. So you've got the hormonal surge pushing hard, thick blood moving slow, and stiff vessels that can't flex out of the way, all converging at the same moment. Makes sense, right? 3 problems stacking on top of each other. And here's the thing, the fix for all 3 takes 90 seconds and costs you absolutely nothing. I'll walk you through it step by step in a moment. Quick pause. If this is filling in something your doctor never had time to explain, take 1 second and hit subscribe. It genuinely helps this reach more people who need to hear it. All right, here's your protocol. I call this the 90-second heart protocol. No equipment, no cost, nothing to buy. Just a sequence that takes 90 seconds and protects your heart every single morning. Step 1, the moment your alarm goes off, do not move. Stay exactly where you are. Take 3 slow, deep breaths before you do anything else. In through the nose, out through the mouth, fully and deliberately. This activates the parasympathetic nervous system, that's the calming branch, and begins to counteract that cortisol surge before it peaks. Wild, right? 3 breaths, about 15 seconds. One of the most powerful cardiovascular protective tools that exists, and it's completely free. Step 2, drink the water before you stand. Keep a full glass of water on your nightstand. Put it there tonight. Before your feet touch the floor, drink it. Room temperature, the whole glass. You understand why now. Thin the blood. Reduce the clotting risk. Give the pump something better to work with before the day begins. Step 3, sit before you stand. Roll to your side. Push yourself up slowly. Sit on the edge of the bed with your feet hanging. Rotate your ankles in slow circles, 5 times each direction. This activates the muscle pump in your calves, which pushes pooled blood back up toward the heart and helps restore blood pressure gradually. Sit for a full 30 seconds before you stand, then rise slowly, pressing through your legs. Stand still for another 10 seconds before you take your first step. That is the complete protocol. 3 breaths, 1 glass of water, sit before you stand. 90 seconds total, starting tomorrow morning. And look, I know some of you are sitting there thinking, everything gives you a heart attack these days, so what's the point? I hear you. But this isn't one of those maybe it helps, maybe it doesn't situations. This is a specific mechanical sequence, cortisol plus dehydration plus a sudden pressure drop with a specific measurable fix, 90 seconds. That's not a lifestyle overhaul. That's just not rushing. Now, if you take a water pill for blood pressure, stay with me for this next part. Because the 90-second protocol protects you, but there's one thing that can quietly undermine it, and your doctor probably hasn't checked for it. Diuretics work by flushing excess fluid from the body through the kidneys. They're effective, widely prescribed. But when the kidneys flush fluid, they also flush magnesium. And magnesium, this is the part that gets left out. Magnesium regulates the electrical signals that control your heartbeat. When magnesium levels drop quietly, which they do in a significant number of people on long-term diuretics, the heart becomes electrically unstable. And how would you even know? Palpitations, erratic rhythm. And it tends to show up hardest in the morning, right when the heart is already under the most stress. Now, if you're thinking, but I already take a blood thinner, does any of this still apply to me? Yes. Blood thinners reduce clot risk, but they do nothing about the blood pressure spike, the orthostatic drop, or the dehydration. The 90-second protocol still matters. Okay, so here's exactly what to bring to your next appointment. And I recommend you write this down. Ask your doctor for 2 tests, not 1. 2. The first is a standard serum magnesium test. Normal range is about 1.7 to 2.2 milligrams per deciliter. But here's what most people never hear. Serum only measures about 1% of your body's magnesium. You can come back normal while your cells are running on empty. The second test, and this is the one that actually matters, is RBC magnesium, red blood cell magnesium. That measures what's inside your cells, where the real work happens. You want to see that number above 5.2. The question to ask, and you can say it exactly like this: I'm on a diuretic. Can we check my RBC magnesium level? Write that down. Bring it with you. That is how you stop being the person who gets a pat on the back and looks fine when it isn't. Oh, one more thing on this. If your levels do come back low, magnesium glycinate is the form most people tolerate best. Not oxide. Oxide mostly passes right through you. Glycinate, somewhere around 200 to 350 milligrams, taken before bed. It may actually help you sleep better too. But mention it to your doctor before you start, especially if you're on certain antibiotics or bone density medications, because there are interactions worth knowing about. This is not a replacement for your prescription. I promised I would come back to Helen. After Helen had stabilized, I sat with her and her husband, and we talked about her morning. She described it exactly as I expected. Alarm, immediate movement, vertical, straight to the kitchen to start coffee. Every morning for as long as she could remember. 40 plus years and no one thought to ask. Her previous doctors had reviewed her medications, her diet, her activity level. Nobody had ever asked about the 25 seconds. We made one change before she went home. A glass of water on the nightstand. The 3-breath rule. Sitting on the edge of the bed before standing. 6 months later, she came back for her follow-up. Her morning blood pressure readings, her husband had been tracking them at home, had stabilized. The dizziness she had always brushed off as just getting older was gone. Her cardiologist noticed the improvement and asked what changed. Helen looked at me and said, I stopped rushing. That's all it was. 40 years of rushing and nobody once told me to slow down. I didn't have a great answer for why it took that long, but I told her what I'll tell you now. The information exists, the research exists. The habit itself costs nothing and takes 90 seconds. The morning is the most dangerous window of the day for your heart after 60. Cortisol and adrenaline are already surging before you even open your eyes. Heart rate up, blood pressure up, vessels tightening. Meanwhile, your blood hasn't been this thick all day, and your arteries have zero give. And the habit of standing up immediately, something most people do without thinking, adds a sudden pressure drop that forces an already stressed heart to compensate hard. The fix is 3 steps. Breathe before you move, drink before you stand, and sit on the edge of the bed for 30 seconds. Let your body catch up before you ask it to carry you. 90 seconds, starting tomorrow morning. Here's what I'm asking you to do tonight. Put a glass of water on your nightstand. Just that one thing. The rest will follow. And if you're on a diuretic, write down those 2 tests. Serum magnesium and RBC magnesium. Bring them to your next appointment. You deserve better than looks fine. Which part of this surprised you most? Tell me in the comments. And if this gave you something you needed, share it. There is someone in your life who wakes up every morning the way Helen did. This video might reach them before the morning it matters. If you haven't subscribed yet, please do. Every week I bring you honest, research-grounded information about what your body needs after 60. The information I wish every patient had before they ever ended up in front of me. Take care of your heart. It has been working for you every single minute of every single day without asking for anything in return. Give it 90 good seconds tomorrow morning. And as always, before you change anything about your medications or your routine, bring this to your own doctor. That's where the real conversation starts.